Oh my gosh, there is a huge shift going on. Did you feel it? I know, I'm being silly. Hi, I'm Mike Stickler, and I don't know if you realize that there has been really a giant shift in the method and thinking about what we used to call fundraising. In fact, I affectionately call myself a recovering fundraiser. Sometimes I say a recovering church marketer because things have changed so much in the last couple of years that if you haven't seen and haven't felt the change, or maybe you felt it but didn't know what it was, you're left behind. So in this short little video, I want you to see how things have changed, what you should do in response to that, and see what the next steps are for you. All right, so let's just get going. I call it the big shift. As I mentioned, there's just a big shift that's been going on in the whole fundraising efforts. And really, there's a move towards fundraising, and a lot of it has to do with the idea that marketing, solicitation, sales, the things that have worked for 50 years are just not working anymore. And I think most of you have probably felt it if you haven't straight recognized it at this point. See, what we've been doing, especially those of us in the nonprofit and in the Christian world and the church world, is we've been borrowing from well orchestrated, well thought through marketing techniques that have been effective in the past. Solicitation approaches, sales mentality, in order to achieve the resources that we need for our ministries and our organization's vision. But it isn't working anymore. And we've been slowly on this place of no return, where we're just not getting the kind of return that we used to get before. You know, I hear it all the time from guys that say, I send out my newsletter and I'm getting less and less response from my newsletter. So I think I need to send more newsletters out. You see, guys, the truth is that's not the answer. More newsletters, marketing more, pitching more, selling more isn't the answer. And I want to take some time to just kind of go over that with you today. I know you know the Vision Group, but I want to just share with you a little bit who we are. We envision Christian ministries, churches, and community nonprofits, and those who give their support, fulfilling their vision to serve people worldwide and to advance the kingdom of God. That's our heartbeat. And I want you to hang on to that because it hopefully is reflected in everything that we do. And a few years ago, we set out a goal, and that goal was to help effective ministries raise their part of $1 billion. That's right, $1 billion with a B. You know how many zeros a billion has? 9. Yeah. And so we're out to help community-based nonprofits, Christian ministries, and churches raise the funding to fulfill their vision by the year 2020. And by the way, I want you to keep hold of that thought as we get towards the end of this short video. So the big questions are this, and I hear it all the time. Mike, why don't they call me back? I went and I met with him, and I built these long-term relationships, and I feel like we're getting somewhere, and then nothing. I can't get any call back. I don't hear from him, and I don't know how much I should pester him or not pester him. Yeah, I know it's a problem, and I'll share with you as we get going through this why it's a problem. The other one I hear is, why don't the fundraising prospect engage with my proposal? So it's either they don't call me back at all, or they just kind of shake their head, go, yeah, okay, I see, and they're really not engaged in it, or they come up with this big list of reasons why it won't work. I actually heard one the other day where somebody said, my client, who is a go-getter and is really an exciting individual to be around, has great vision and great execution. And one of the people who had been funding him said, "Oh, this is just moving too fast. see, they're not engaging in what's actually happening in the vision of that organization. And that's one of the big questions or problems that we face. And then, of course, I hear this last one probably the most. How do I meet new people to share my mission? Well, one of the problems is you're sharing your mission, and people don't find the mission necessarily very exciting thing to follow. So that's one of the challenges. The second part is the only way really in this environment to gain new prospects, new people to be part of your vision is to have those that are involved in your vision now passionate and excited about where you're going. So the climate's changed, you guys, and if you don't know that, I'm here to tell you. That's why I had the little silly introduction at the beginning. The climate's changed because of the information world that we live in now. People are jaded and they're overwhelmed by the various appeals. White noise is what people are hearing. And when you're practicing these constant solicitation, marketing approaches, constantly getting out there in front of people, sending them mailers, fancy letters, those kinds of things, what you're really doing is contributing to that jaded thing that's going on. It's like, yeah, right. Stop doing that to me. Or they're also jaded just because there's so much need in the world. Are you kidding? Have you looked at the headlines lately? So many people hurting, so much death and destruction and starvation, and there's just so much going on. People just get jaded and don't even want to look at it anymore. And quite honestly, I think part of the problem is our overall media jades people with making the challenges in this world a statistic instead of getting really connected to the live issues that are happening. And I don't think our media does a good job in that. And so there is this shift, especially with the millennials, away from all of that kind of approach. People are being selective in the way they gather their news and their content. They're being selective in what kind of content comes through their massive filters because they only want to connect with the things that make sense to them. Grab a hold of that. They only want to connect with the things that make sense to them. And then people just quite frankly see fundraising as the same as marketing and sales. And you know what? It is. I mean, we have now evolved fundraising to such a point, and I got to tell you guys, I'm an expert at fundraising. I am. But I've come to the realization that there's a real lack of return in fundraising as we have been doing it really for the last 50 years through marketing, advertising, sales, just kind of pushing the message out there upon people. They call it interruption marketing instead of a much more natural way to do it. And quite honestly, a lot of us just don't like to do fundraising. I mean, people in my entire career have said, "Oh, fundraising, oh, that's terrible. Who likes to do fundraising? I don't want to do fundraising. Fundraising's the worst. I feel like I'm out for the annual bag. I feel like all I'm doing is manipulating my friends. I feel like, well, that's because you are. That's exactly why, because you are. The truth is the very nature of sales, marketing, fundraising is to manipulate people to make a decision to part with their money based on something that will somehow improve their lives. And fundraising is always kind of the redheaded stepchild of marketing and sales because in the back of people's minds, they know that the only thing they're going to get out of this is a feeling of being, feeling good about giving away some money. Because so when we do all of this manipulation, sales, all this kind of stuff, we end up the only real benefit that the person that gives the money away is a brief moment of satisfaction that they made the right decision and made somebody's life a little better. And that goes really quick. Okay, so it's really the society is really moving against it. And then finally, we are overwhelmingly Overwhelmingly, supporters want to give to effective vision, not need. Overwhelmingly, they want to give to effective vision and not need. Why? Because there's a small number of people that want to support and want to give and want to help. And those folks want to give, want to help to effective organizations that are making a difference, real on the ground differences. And they're tired of people misusing the money, having golden bathrooms, private jets. They're tired of organizations who are constantly in this treadmill of presenting need over and over and over again. At some point, they say to themselves, really, when is this group ever going to kind of get its act together so they're not always begging for more money? Supporters also want to effective vision, or I'm sorry, support effective vision because um, they feel like, because we play the role of the ones that are always broke, always beggars, always asking for, always, and I know we don't mean to, but we do. Now I realize when I just made that comment, there's some of you going, "Oh, Mike, that's not true. We don't do that." Yeah, search your heart of hearts. Again, I've been doing this over 20 years. I'm really sensitive to it, and I still slip into my old methods. I really do. I still do it. It's a funny story. I was presenting not long ago at a church about um, changing their culture of generosity, and I should say us as a team were. And we're presenting. And one of the things that came back to us is, you just did this whole thing about scarcity marketing, and then you marketed to us. And all I could say is, wow, you're right. That was a mistake. Because old habits die hard. And I want you to see that. There's such a major change in what's been happening. And if you haven't woken up to it, if you haven't looked around and done the research, if you haven't felt the change that's been going on, if you don't feel the diminishment of return in your fundraising, and that's what I'm calling it, fundraising efforts, in the money that's being given in your offering plate at church, and the support that people give, it's because they don't see a compelling vision to get behind. And that's the important piece. So how do we respond? Well, the first thing we have to do is care more about our supporters than their support. Excuse me. One of the things that my mentor taught me years ago was quit running around with dollar signs in your eyes. Quit approaching people with dollar signs in your eyes. In other words, I don't want to get to know this person because he could or she could possibly really support what I'm doing. I want to get to know this person to see if God has brought them into the fold that I may minister to them. See, one is putting the human being, the individual in their lives first and trusting God to bring the support. The other is bringing that person into your life in order to get support. And funders feel very used by that. It's some of the reason they're so skeptical and why the shift has happened. So what you got to do first is love them. Even when you're not ready to love them yet, you need to love them. It's a crisis of will. And you have to recognize, if you take anything away from this video, they are part of those you minister to. If you're ministering to the homeless, the poor, the downtrodden, the hungry, the ill, the abused, any area, if you're ministering to just regular families who just have life problems and issues like divorce and their kids aren't obeying the law, or doing things that are risky, or all the things that are wrapped up in our culture, and you pastor, you leader, you're busy loving those people, you have to love the ones with as much passion. Okay? You have to love the ones with as much passion who are supporting you and who we often just kind of treat as a perishable item. We get our money from them, or we get our support from them, and then we don't talk to them again until we need support from them again. What a crazy approach. You have to love them. They have to be part of your family. You need to put as much passion into them as you do in the area that you're already working. They're just one more segment of your ministry. How else do we respond? Hey, here it is right here. Stop marketing and soliciting. If you got to go cold turkey, then go cold turkey. There's a tension, by the way. Some will say, well, if I don't market, people won't know who I am. I understand that, but the marketing has to lead to a meaningful relationship. Okay? A meaningful, sustainable relationship, not a transaction. So if you're marketing for a transaction, you're doing it wrong. If you're soliciting for a transaction, it's not going to hold water anymore, you guys. It's not. But what will work, okay, what will work is if you do market, make that a small portion of your budget. Don't put that much effort, expense into it, but it's going to build to relationship. And I think it's one of the reasons why social media and some of the communication tools that are out there are so effective, because they're actually building real relationship in some situations, some not, but in some situations they could be. And then care about the long term opposed to the short plan. Care about the long term. You know, a few years ago I was working with a group, and I was presenting actually to the board about consulting with them. And one of the board members said, so Mike, the bottom line is your job is done when you get the donation. And I said, no, my job is done when they put you in their will. And I'm not talking about planned giving, a method. I'm talking about that they love your ministry, they love your organization so much. They love how you're changing lives and making a difference. They care so much about what you're doing that they're actually planning into their will, into their estate, how they're going to support your vision right along with their kids and their grandkids. Isn't that amazing? See, that's an ultimate expression of being an owner of your vision, see, is when they put you in their will. It's no longer temporary. They've planned on supporting you even after their death. Wow. And then one of the ways you've got to, and probably the primary way you have to respond, is to learn a new way of thinking. Some of you right now, I know, I was one of you. I really was. Some of you right now are going, Mike, you're out of your mind. I can't stop doing that. This is how we've always done it. This is never going to be, you know, it's a passing fad. Generosity, blah, blah, blah. You're wrong. You guys are wrong. You need a new way of thinking. And what's going to happen is if you don't start to change the way you're thinking, you're not going to bring in the kind of support that you want. To be sustainable. You will be running on this treadmill of need, solicit, receive. Need, solicit, receive. In other words, present the need, solicit for a donation, receive the donation, and then repeat. Okay, it's going to drive you crazy. You already are exhausted being on this treadmill. You have to figure out a new way to do it. And then finally, if you can't feel it in your heart of hearts, you should really be praying about this. This is really the heart of God, isn't it? I mean, Jesus took 12 guys that didn't really have their acts together, that's for sure, and changed the world. And talk about sustainable. It's gone on for over 2,000 years. Talk about, and it was the plan all along. You see? So I want you to start thinking about how you're going to change the way you're thinking. And I want you to know my team at the Vision Group is really ready to help you with that. In that new way of thinking, you're going to need to abandon some things. Okay? You need to abandon the fundraising mentality and start living generously. You, as an organization, as individuals, have to start being expressive in your own giving. And you have to celebrate it. What do I mean by expressive? I mean, you have to demonstrate generosity. You have to be the first one to pick up the lunch check. You have to be the first one. These aren't actions of legalism. These are actions that are coming from your heart. You have to commit to prayer and praying for you, those that are around you and those that are supporting you. You have to really begin to move away from the business and into the heart of what it takes to build long-term sustainable relationships. You got to get off the bandwagon of getting and get on the bandwagon of giving. You know, what you'll see in some of my clients' efforts is they don't get on their radio program or they don't get on their TV program and say, now for a small gift you'll get this, bobblehead Jesus. You never see the folks I work with do that because that is not giving. If you really have something that's going to make a difference in somebody's life, and you can, give it to them. And I'll say this with one little balance. In American society, the value of what they get, the value of what you're giving away, often is reflected on the price. So I don't always suggest, as an example, and I don't want to take a long bunny trail on this, but I don't suggest like having a free teaching event, or what do I mean by that? A free dinner or a free luncheon or something like that all the time, because people start to not value it. That's a whole other subject. Here's another thing. Stop coming from a place of scarcity and start coming from a place of abundance. It was one of my hardest lessons in fundraising, and it was one of my earliest ones. When I first got into fundraising, I was operating a homeless mission, and I got on television in the city and I said, if we don't receive the money that we need for this shelter, it's going to close. I presented scarcity, and I got three things out of that: a little bit of a blip, a little bit of a bump in donations, but mostly, excuse me, but mostly I got people saying, oh, I'm so sorry it didn't work out and it's closing. And the others I got was, good, we need to stop helping those bums anyway. The latter two were the biggest responses, and a few people gave. It was the wrong approach. We needed to talk about what God was doing in the entirety of the organization and how it was growing and making a difference, and how homeless were finding places to get educated, and homes, and off their addictions, and all the things that we were doing so effectively. It was just a completely wrong approach. We serve a God of abundance. He owns everything, not some of the things. He owns everything, and he only from time to time allows us to steward some of it for him. Next thing, sales versus genuine relationship. We got to quit moving towards the transaction. I mean, guys, I know people, big fundraisers, big vice presidents of development and big Christian ministries who high five one another when they get the big check. And I think to myself, boy, you have missed the point. The point is genuine relationship, loving, caring, pastoral kind of relationship into these people's lives. You're going to find out, yeah, they may drive a nice car and wear nicer clothes, or they may appear to have it all together, but when you get to know them, you find out they don't have it all so together. Often the relationship with the Lord is anemic. So you've got to move away from the transaction, start moving into the genuine relationship. And then manipulation versus kingdom-mindedness. When you have the sales mentality, you're busy manipulating the circumstance and situation so that you can get the transaction, instead of recognizing that really the thing to do is care about the relationship and have a kingdom mindset. So let's say, and this has actually happened to me, I worked with a couple and they said to me, Mike, we love what you're doing, but my wife went through breast cancer not long ago, and we really feel that we need to support families and really the cure for cancer. So we've really kind of working with we really want to work with the American Cancer Society and start to work with families like that. I said, that's incredible. Something completely opposite of what we were doing. We were not in that space at all. So I said, well, do you know the folks over at the American Cancer Society? And they said, well, not really. I mean, we're just kind of, getting into engaged with them. And I said, well, let me make some introductions for you. So I got a hold of the development director at the American Cancer Society, and I set up a lunch for the three of us, and I did a handoff to that group. Look, they're not even a Christian group. They're not like-minded necessarily in what we're doing, but they certainly do good stuff. They do great work, so why not? And later on, that husband came back to me. I saw him at a social event, and he said, I was so impressed that you would do that. When the economy turned in 2009, the guys that maintained their budgets is when they went to their bigger donors, especially, and said, I know this has been a tough year for you, and we may have some more tough years ahead. And I know that you made a commitment to us for this next year. If you'd like out of that commitment, we'd be okay with that. We understand. And often, it wasn't a move of manipulation, you guys. It was genuine and they cared. Nobody expected the result. And the result was not only did they continue with their giving and their commitment to give, but they upped it where they could. And the ones who had the manipulation, the sales, the scarcity, the fundraising mentalities, they got cut back on because there wasn't a genuine caring relationship. And then the last piece here I want you to know about is technique versus culture. Quit worrying about having the greatest technique at grant writing or letters composition or how really groovy your website is, and all these little techniques that are going to make you better. Start thinking about how the culture of your whole entire organization needs to change. Think about how you express yourself, how you express generosity, and how you express abundance, and how you care about relationships, and that you really reflect that. Start to really instill that into the DNA of your organization. There's an old saying. I learned it from a guy a pastor I served with years ago, and he said, if you don't set the culture will set itself. And usually that's done from the human nature. That culture gets set by the human nature. Critical, greedy, self-focused, and you're missing really the kingdom mindedness that God has. So I want to just share with you a little bit about how we could help you. The Vision Group has developed a new vision. It's really a refined vision to help ministries be part of our $1 billion goal by the year 2020. And I would love for you to be part of that, because this is really the heart of who we are, is to help you learn to fish opposed to fishing for you. And we do that through two ways: vision casting and relationship building. And Vision 2020 really has this incredible potential to have a major worldwide impact on organizations. And our goal through Vision 2020 is to foster a new environment for you. So you're not just asking for funding anymore, but now you're casting vision and you're building long-term relationships with philanthropists and private foundations, key community partners, and other organizations in and around your community. Vision 2020's goal is much bigger than just securing funds, but rather it's a convergence of nonprofit ministries, philanthropists, and private foundations to make a significant impact on lives worldwide. So your first step in being involved in our vision and what we're doing now, I want you to realize when I say our vision, it's really your vision. I don't want to usurp what you're doing, but I do want you to be part of so that we can help make an impact and influence in small or large ways how the next few years would look for you. So our goal for Vision 2020 is to provide community-based nonprofits, churches, and parachurches with the training and resources to solidify their management and fundraising technique. Now, I use that word fundraising and I use that word technique, but I do because I want you to realize there needs to be a change in how you're doing it. We accomplish this through our Raise Your Vision forums. We provide free training, coaching, and a whole bunch of other different things. And that first step is for you to become a member of Vision 2020. So we honestly ask for a small contribution to be part of what we're doing, to provide all these things for you. Now, each of these growing opportunities offered a variety of workshops and specifically geared towards effective development strategies, the kind that will change the way you think. And we work with in the areas of grant writing and philanthropic or philanthropy and marketplace leaders, how to reach your community and beyond and build real relationships in that, changing your organizational culture to become a sustainable for years to come. Can you imagine that you are in a place, your organization is in a place that money just really isn't a concern for you? The ministry is. I serve a church that has excess all the time. It has more money than it needs for its budget. I serve a ministry, and I've served many ministries alongside of and consulted with and coached many ministries who have more volunteers than they have paid staff people. The goal is to have less paid staff and more people with passion about the vision. Wouldn't that be neat that you had a culture in such a way? Wouldn't that be powerful to have a culture in such a way that people are going, wow, there is something significantly different about how this organization runs? And then we have the Raise Your Vision Forum. Some would call it a master class, where we bring in experts, but not just people who talk about a particular strategy or way of doing things, but instead people who practice it. If they're not practicing it, we're not interested, because if you can't practice it, you're really not an expert in it. And the Raise Your Vision Forum brings in monthly new incredible presenters who basically are saying it very much the same way we are, but with a different viewpoint, a different slant, or a different audience that they're working with. Now, if you become a member of Vision 2020, you'll be able to get our products at 50% off and even more sometimes. You'll get able to really listen to hundreds of hours of original content from some of the best practitioners in ministry from around the country and even around the world. There's more material than you'll possibly be able to digest each year. Okay. Plus, you'll receive updates on what matters in our vision daily update. It comes out every day. I personally edit this update so that you're getting the kind of information that's applicable to what's happening right now in real time. Each week, we'll give you access to white papers, research data, editable documents, not editable like you eat them. I know that's a bad joke. But instead, you can get in there and use them for yourself. And relevant blog posts that all deliver to your inbox. And you'll also get a one-year subscription to our acclaimed Generous Church magazine. It's a bi-monthly, comes every other month to you. It's an electronic magazine, and it's got great interviews and information and best practices and all kinds of things about how philanthropists, common everyday folks, are all practicing this new way of thinking and how it's getting just tremendous results. Then there's a whole bunch of extras. Weekly Generous Life devotionals to help you personally grow in your own generosity, being in touch with the Word. Monthly webinars for myself and a whole bunch of other practitioners, free for you. In each one of the free webinars, you have an opportunity to go deeper into that subject, so you can get a great introductory overview webinar for free, let's say on grant writing or engaging philanthropy. And then if you feel like this is an area you want to go deeper in, for a very minimal membership investment additional, you can go and get the additional materials or take the additional webinars, etc. And then, of course, special members only discounts on coaching opportunities and different products that we offer. And you can use the Vision 2020 logo to show your organization is qualified as a Vision 2020 member. So you can put that on your website, or you can put it in your materials. And it's slowly more and more becoming recognizable to funders because they start to realize that we're making a difference in how organizations operate. So I'll ask you again, do you want to join us in this little effort? Look, it's really not very expensive to become a member of Vision 2020, and we'll help you achieve more than you can imagine, including your piece of the $1 billion goal. So there's two ways to do it. It's really affordable. It's $9.99 a month, or if you want to just do it on a yearly, you can save 47% and get it at $57 a year. Once you sign up, all of these resources just start coming to you automatically. You don't have to do anything else except take advantage of them. And if for any reason you decide the membership isn't for you, things have changed, whatever happens, you can cancel. You'll keep anything that you'd gathered up until that point. Your membership you just stop getting the information. But I'm pretty sure you won't want to. So click on the link right here and get yourself joined up as a member of Vision 2020. You won't regret it. All right, and until next time, when we are online together, may just God bless you and your efforts in a deep way.
Hi, I'm Ron Luce with Teen Mania, and I just want to encourage you to consider being a part of Vision 2020. You know, as ministries and leaders of ministries are coming together from all over different pockets of the country to really learn how to refine their vision, how to rally people around their vision, particularly people who will help fund it. What are these philanthropists looking for? What's going to attract them to a ministry when they see how their investment is going to really pay off and lives changed? And these consortiums, as leaders are coming together, learning to refine what they're doing and really develop relationships with each other, and philanthropists who might either offer you wisdom or wealth or talent or guidance to help accomplish what we're all called to do. And I think there's a real marriage between the giving world, the business world, and the ministry world, and it's a chance to really connect and network in that regard. So God bless you. I encourage you to consider being a part of Vision 2020.